Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shed the Debt. I'm Patty Lovett-Reed. Today, we are speaking to Richard Goldhar of Goldhar and Associates. You got something to do with the company?
Just a little.
Yeah, just a little. But I did want to talk to you. You are a businessman. You are watching the economic landscape very closely, the tariff situation, not getting into the details of that, but the knock-on effect specifically for small business owners. Let's start there.
Absolutely. So small business owners, they need to stay calm. I say do a little yoga today because at the end of the day, we don't know what the future will hold. We do tell people, speak with your accountants, speak with your lawyers, and speak with your licensed insolvency trustee. We are that sort of new initiative of looking at how the company could potentially prosper in the future, how it could potentially maybe need a little restructuring in the future. But the three groups of accountants, lawyers, and licensed insolvency trustees will set you far ahead of the rest.
Now, obviously, you have a vested interest. And so, it's kind of like full disclosure. We know that. But I also know that there are signs where a business may be saying to themselves, I certainly saw this during COVID, where am I viable? Like, am I going to get through this? There were some, Richard, that I've spoken to post-pandemic that said, I should have shut my doors and reemerged because I have so much government debt now that I need to pay back. And it's not a level playing field. So what are the signs that someone needs to talk to you or the team, which is very extensive, but they're in that situation where they're deciding, do I shut the doors right now, given the tariff situation, or do I tough it out?
So there's probably a fourfold process.
Okay.
One, look at your most recent 3 years financial statements. Look at the balance sheet, look at the income statements. The balance sheet's going to tell you your asset richness in the company, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
Then look at your income statement. Look at the revenues, look at the trends. Look at your cost of employment. Look at your cost of goods sold. Look at your interest costs. That's your sort of second big phenomenon that you want to look at. Thirdly, meet with your accountant and your lawyer. You always speak to your lawyer because you want to understand what risks you have. And start with a general lawyer, but they will put you in touch with the specifics that you need. Potentially, if you have employees, what's the risk of terminating, laying off, or keeping on? Then you want to look to speak to about your landlord. Do you have any personal guarantees against the landlord?
What does that mean?
Personal guarantees mean that you signed the lease for the company.
Right.
And then your name is at the bottom, so they could go after the company if it defaults, or you personally.
Got that part.
And then on the last part that you sort of want to talk to is that licensed insolvency trustee again. And I keep bringing that back, maybe self-interested, but hopefully not, is more to look at how can we restructure?
So when you say that, and I just want to back up because somebody watching says, okay, I'm a small business owner. I don't even know what a restructure would look like. What does that mean when you say, can you even do it?
Absolutely. So then what you'd look at the first three tranches, and if you believe there is a business to be had,
A viable business. Yeah.
then a restructuring could be as simple as a proposal. So you constantly hear in the media on advertising that consumers can do what's called a consumer proposal. You hear them saying, they shed the debt for 80 cents on the dollar. They are able to wipe out all sorts of debt. Well, corporations can do the same thing.
And they continue to operate.
The company is still managed by you as the owner. And as long as the creditors approve the proposal with the pre-qualified amounts and the court endorses the proposal and you make your payments due and payable in the proposal, that is a form of restructuring. And that's what a licensed insolvency trustee does. And as the companies get bigger, there's different types of options. Sometimes you look at a receivership. Sometimes you would look at a CCAA proceeding with companies who have more than $5 million of creditors, but they're all forms of restructuring. The name is irrelevant. It's knowing that there is a form to restructure.
Is this an ideal time for your business? I know how that sounds. It's not, I don't mean it to be opportunistic, but the fact is, recently in the news, the Bay files for bankruptcy protection, and you've had large corporations that you've dealt with in the past that you've looked to this restructuring. Is this something you think we're going to see more of?
So in the previous 18 months, we have done more large-scale restructurings.
And what's a large scale for you?
Sure, any debt levels over $5 million of
Yeah.
creditor balances, that's a large-scale restructuring.
When you think about the big banks and they have loan loss provisions, and this is money set aside at the bank, the big banks for the bad loans. How close do you work with the banks?
Yeah, so we are on two of the banks, what they call preferred lists.
And what does that mean?
So that means if they want to put in a professional to guide the restructuring or offer the client some consulting advice, we would be one of the firms that they would pick.
Interesting. Now, how successful, like what are the odds that if somebody's watching right now, they're a business owner, that they come out of this through a restructuring? Are they able to borrow money again?
Companies can always borrow money again. There's always a lender willing to help a company,
At what cost?
maybe at a higher cost
Right.
initially, because you got to remember, you got to rebuild the lender's trust now,
Right.
because they've all taken what you call haircuts. So that means they're getting paid less principal than you borrowed. So of course they're going to charge a little more, but once you sort of show that, then the good faith,
Yeah.
and they can see history with your financial statements, then your borrowing rates are going to come down.
What do you want a business owner to know right now?
I want them to know that there is help, that there is a bright future, and when one door closes, 6 more open.
Yeah, not my mother told me one more door opens, so 6 open. Yes. You think opportunities are there.
They're always there.
So do you care what's going on in the landscape right now? Because I guess there are always winners and losers, economically speaking.
Yes, and I say, people always come to me and say, I'm the loser in the economic landscape. And I say, no, you're the winner, because this door didn't work for you. But now, from you being a part of this closing operation, you're now able to know what to do in the future to make a super success. I look in the Canadian landscape, and so many of the most successful individuals in business have had failures. And if you haven't been through a failure, you don't even know what a success is.
Interesting. My last question to you, what if you are a business owner, and what signs would you be looking for that say, all right, I'm still viable, but maybe I should get a consult?
So I say come for a consult, even when you have a pit in your stomach that something might be wrong. There's a threat of a tariff. There's a threat of a large loss of a customer. There's a threat that you're below the ratios for your banking arrangements. You haven't made your HST or payroll remittances. You're not sure how to make that payroll next week. Your cash is getting tight. Margins are getting weak. There are so many reasons why I would say reach out for consulting advice. When you're growing your business, you have consultants with you all the time.
Interesting.
Why would you not be doing that the opposite way when you know you have this incredible asset, your company, and yet you need a little bit of a third eye view on how to turn the thing? The biggest portion of our business is consulting work, consulting with the restructuring, not needing any formal help of a proposal, a bankruptcy, a CCAA, a receivership. You don't need that. You just need that consulting advice to turn your ship around.
I think that's where we're going to end it, sir. Thank you. Richard Goldhar from Goldhar and Associates. We'll see you next time on Shed the Debt.